Hi everyone, Hutch here and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to show you a plugin that I've been using that's actually saved me a lot of time. The plugin in question is Denise Audio's Bass XXL, and what it is it's a sub-harmonic generator. So lately, one of the problems that I've been facing has been that my snares sound weak on the low end. And this is particularly apparent, say, when I'm doing a breakbeat and I haven't got a kick supporting a snare. In other words, the kick isn't happening at the same time as a snare, and that snare is exposed on its own, and you can hear that it's quite, thin and fragile. Should we put it that way? And I want it to be thick and mean. And with the subharmonic generation, all it's doing is it's adding higher harmonics to the top end. And by doing this, it allows you to hear the sound on smaller speakers. It's all very, very clever. The other thing, it's a zero latency plugin. I have to say that because at the moment, my template, most of the plugins, pretty much without exception, are zero latency, and I need zero latency simply because a lot of the time I'm playing guitar straight into a project and I don't want to run into any timing issues. So you can use this tool creatively at the beginning of a project, which I absolutely love. It means I'm not digging about trying to find another snare that's actually got that low end to then layer with the one that I have. So I think what we'll do is we'll get into it, and then I can show you what this plugin is all about. Okay, everybody, so here is Bass XXL, and this is the thing that's been saving me time in my productions. So I'm just gonna, I'll just go through and just explain all of the controls, right? So firstly, we've got a spectrum analyzer at the top here, and this is just so when we can actually find the exact fundamental frequency that we want to dial in. So that's really, really handy, the fact that we can visually see where the sweet spot is, as well as hearing it, although I would recommend to use your ears at all times. So the first control we've got is the root, okay? So it just moves this little white line about, and then you can find the center point of your fundamental frequency on the low end. That's kind of directing the harmonic enhancement. But we do have a few different flavors on this frequency control. So one of them is note. So with note, we can actually dial in the pitch, which is very, very handy if you want something to be in key. Let's say you had just a bass, right, and it was just on E, then you can dial this in exactly E. We can hit E3 there, and then that's going to generate all the harmonics so you can hear it. And then the other thing which I really like is the fact that it's got MIDI enhancement, so it can feed MIDI in this. So let's say a bass note was playing a number of notes, then the plugin would read the MIDI, and basically it would just track with those notes, with those fundamentals. So that's really cool. Back to frequency, which is what I'm going to use. And we've got harmonics next. So harmonics, basically that's just how intense you want this effect. So that's quite obvious, but we do have oversampling as well for better quality. And then we have our boost control, which I just think of like a wet dry. So that's just how much of the harmonics, how much of this effect do we want to hear. The solo button is very, very handy because what it allows us to do is switch the original dry sound completely off, and then we only hear the wet sound, so we only hear what this generator is doing. And that way we can really shape the sound because we can hear it in isolation, basically. And then we have the pre-delay. So I've never seen a pre-delay on enhancement tools before that I've used anyway. But the reason this is so handy and well thought out is because, well, for example, I'm using this on a snare drum, which you'll hear in a minute, and I don't want this bass enhancement to clutter up the very beginning of the snare sound, because that beginning of the snare sound, that's where the transients are, and that's the impact. So sometimes adding low end can affect how those transients cut through. So by adding pre-delay, very similar to a reverb actually, it's actually delaying what this effect is doing. And then finally we have mono, so we don't always want to have our basses basically in stereo because it can cause like absolute havoc when it comes to mono compatibility. So it makes sense to basically have things in mono. So continuing on, we have the slope filter, and that's good. So that's just like to do with how smooth this effect is. So on a lower slope, it's going to sound smoother, and then we're going to have it like a little bit more angular, and harsher, I would imagine, on the 48 dB, but we'll have a listen to that. And then we've got the range. So the range is how far do you want the harmonics to extend to. So if I have it at 3, this effect's going to extend higher up the frequency range. Lower, it's going to be lower. So here is the snare drum. So you can actually hear, just with these settings, the snare, and there's no effect there. So as I bring this in, see the white line, we found the fundamental there. And then what I can do is just add in so there it's quite snappy. Okay, and then this is how much you want to hear. So basically for the boost, it's on 0, can't hear anything, and then we can just, and then we're really getting like low end there popping through. So that's it in solo. So you can hear basically what this plugin's doing. You can hear the harmonics there crunching away. I'm just going to jump to the range. So I probably don't want it to extend that high. And I'm going to focus this more on the low end of the snare drum. So I think like 24 dBs more, sounds more subtle. We'll take this off solo. And I'll just bypass it, and we can hear. So that's without, with, without, with. Let's hear it with the drums all together. Again, I'll just switch it off. You see how like thin that sounds. Okay, and let's put it in with the rest of the track. So that's with it, without, with, that's my favourite plugin that I'm using at the moment, and it's really good, and as I say, it's saved lots of time. If you like what you've been seeing, do subscribe and get the notifications. I do regular live streams, so it'd be great to see you on there, and feel free to ask me any questions. And that's it really.